Good morning, members of Parliament, support staff, visitors in the public tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, those viewing via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to this Central Committee meeting number 34 of today, Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. I would like to give a special welcome to the chairman, Mr. Alphonse Gums. I'd like to also give a special welcome to Ms. Cheryl Peterson, Mrs. Dal Ofringa, and Mr. De Jong. We have established they are also all the representatives of the General Audit, and they will be doing a presentation for us today. We've established a quorum of 6 members, 4 factions. Please let's stand for a moment of silence. I've received notice of absence from MP William Marlin. Is there any member of Parliament that wishes to have the floor for notifications? Thank you. There's no need. Then we go to the agenda point, which is the annual report for 2021 General Audit Chamber. This can be found under IS 614, Parliamentary Year 2021 to 2022, dated March 1st, 2022. We go over to the agenda point. On March 1st, 2022, Parliament received a copy of the Annual Report 2021 of the General Audit Chamber. This document, as stated before, is registered under IS 614 and can be found on the P drive. At this time, I would like to give the floor to the Chairman of the General Audit Chamber, Mr. Alphonse Gums, for his introductory remark and presentation. Mr. Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you. Chair Lady of Parliament, Mrs. Grisha Helliger-Martin, honorable members of Parliament in the Tribune, Clifford, Parliament support staff, the people of St. Martin, good morning. As mentioned earlier, I am Alphonse Gums, and I'm here before you in my capacity of Chairman of the General Audit Chamber. I am accompanied this morning by the other members of our board and our support staff, namely Mrs. Mandy Dal Ofringa, our Vice Chair and Board Member, Mrs. Cheryl Peterson, our Board Member, and Mr. Keith De Jong, our Secretary General. We are in the process of also appointing our deputy members, of which the first set of nominees have been sent to Parliament already. We are hoping to have the second set of nominees forward to you in the near future. On behalf of the board and staff of the General Audit Chamber, we first like to express our appreciation and thanks to Parliament for the invitation to appear before you today to provide you with some insights of our annual report 2021. The year 2021 was dominated by the financial impact due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, we saw that the government made strides in reducing the backlog in government financial statements, in which the statements for the year 2017 and 2018 were presented. We know that earlier this year, we also presented the 2019 statement, and today we are pleased to say that the 2020 statement was also provided, and a copy was sent to Parliament as well. From our annual report, it is noted that a total of 12 reports, 3 of which were confidential in nature, were completed by us. During the year, we strive to strengthen our internal policies as well as providing sound in-house financial management. We have further enhanced our position as a respected institution in 2021, despite facing financial challenges. Cooperations and contacts with other institutions were notable during the year, both locally and internationally. Most of these meetings were held virtually. Due to budget reductions associated with COVID-19, our internal operation and staffing were minimal and vacant positions were not filled. Timely reporting of our operating expenditures submitted to the Minister of Finance and an independent auditor prepared our financial report regarding our operational expenditures. For the year, we realized 79% of our budget versus actual expenses in 2021. During the 12th CARISAI, and CARISAI stands for the Caribbean Association of Supreme Audit Institutions, Congress that was recently held in Aruba, from May 15 to 19, 2022, the General Audit Chamber of St. Martin was elected to serve on the Executive Board for the next 3 years. And I, as the chairman, would represent the General Audit Chamber on that Executive Board. This is a position that we of the General Audit Chamber are very proud of, as this is the first time in our 12-year history that we were elected to this board. CARISAI is an international umbrella organization for audit institutions in the Caribbean region and consists of 23 member states. The function of CARISAI is to provide the opportunity for its members to exchange ideas and experiences in the field of public sector auditing, while the Executive Board is responsible for the execution and implementation of the strategic policies and development of the association. As part of our appearance this morning, we will be providing you with a short presentation on our role and what we have been doing thus far. Our Secretary General, Mr. Keith DeYoung, will facilitate this presentation. At the end of our presentation, we are open for any questions or comments you may have. With that, Madam Chair Lady, I would now like to turn the floor over to Mr. DeYoung to proceed with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gums. Mr. DeYoung, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable President. Good morning, everyone. Before I start the presentation on our 2021 annual report, I'd first like to thank Parliament for the invitation to appear before you today. My name is Keith DeYoung. I am the Secretary General of the Audit Chamber. And as part of our presentation today, we present you with a short animation describing who we are. Afterwards, I'll provide some additional information on our 2021 accomplishments. And like my chairman already indicated, if you have any questions at the end, please do not hesitate to ask. So let's start with the short animation. Do we have to press that? I hope I'm pressing the right button here. There we go.
2010 was the year that our island became known as Country St. Martin. This obviously came with many changes, one being the establishment of the General Audit Chamber. That sounds pretty cool, but what does an audit chamber really do? The Audit Chamber is an independent institution that checks whether government spends public funds and carries out public policy as intended. More specifically, an eye is on whether taxpayers' money is being used in accordance with the rules and whether the spending is achieving the intended results. The outcomes of these evaluations that are called audits are then presented in reports. So what's the point of these reports? Like any other business, the General Audit Chamber has customers. The primary customers are Parliament and government. Parliament can use the information in the reports to perform the necessary checks on government, while the government can use the reports to address shortcomings and improve government service and efficiency. Once the report is presented to Parliament, they become public. The taxpayer may also be informed via the reports of how government is using public funds. These reports can be accessed via the General Audit Chamber's website. The General Audit Chamber is now extending the reach of its information by keeping you updated via social media. Like our Facebook page to stay updated on vital information and to view a breakdown of current topics. A better informed public is key to improving the functioning of our democracy.
So the animation explains in short what we do and how we are organized. And at this moment, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the General Audit Chamber. Just like Parliament, we are a High Council of State. And just like Parliament, we are an independent institution. We are established in the Constitution in Article 74. And our National Ordinance General Audit Chamber regulates who does what, when, and how. Our board consists of 3 persons who are in the meeting today. Board meetings are held every 2 weeks, and meetings are confidential. Currently, we do not have any deputy members. With 3 deputy members, the board would be complete. And in April of this year, we issued a recommendation list with 3 candidates to Parliament for the position of 1 deputy member. And it's up to Parliament to nominate 2 of the candidates from that recommendation list. And then afterwards, the names are sent to the Governor and the Prime Minister for the final selection. We are in anticipation of a prompt decision from Parliament in support of that process. than the budget and realization. Pre-COVID, our budget came up to approximately 2.3 million guilders. And because of the negative impact of the pandemic, the financial consequences, but also in solidarity with both the public and the private sector, we performed an internal analysis of our budget and expenditures. With a result, our budget in 2021 totaled 1.5 million, while our actuals totaled 1.2 million. Compared to the pre-COVID situation, this means a voluntary reduction over 40%. This reduction is the result of renegotiations of existing contracts, like the lease, delaying onboarding personnel, and reducing general expenses. Furthermore, we also complied with the 12.5% reduction in personnel costs. Basically, where we could cut, we did. We'd like to emphasize, though, that our 2021, 2022, and 2023 budget are crisis budgets. They're not sustainable for the long term, because further reduction would severely impact our operations. Regarding our secretariat currently consists of 4 full-time employees. We have 3 part-time consultants, and one of them is a registered accountant. So, even kijken. What is it exactly what we do? Why do we audit, and who are subject to our audits? Our prime directive is to check if government spends public funds as intended. Investigations are referred to as audits. Because we provide factual information on an academic level, our reports have always been of a high standard. Our resources include a range of financial auditing, legal capacities, expertise in economics, and public administration. Parliament can use our recommendations to call ministers to account and also to execute your supervisory role. Using our reports will improve the financial management of our country. It's up to them, to you, to use them. This is that way. Our goal is to provide information to improve the public financial management. We identify shortcomings and we recommend improvements. Government auditing is critical to provide an objective assessment whether public funds are managed responsibly. An audit chamber is an essential institution in a country's accountability chain. By performing an independent check on public spending, we provide credible and timely audit results to Parliament, government, and the general public. The audit chamber has always taken a comprehensive view in auditing the effectiveness, the efficiency, and overall performance of government. So who are subject to our audits? Well, basically persons or entities managing public funds. They're legally required to provide information, and this also includes subsidized entities. We are proud to state that we report short and sweet. We avoid technical terms. We publish in both Dutch and English to facilitate as much people as possible. If there's no way around it, we will mention a technical term, but in a digital version of the report, when you click on such a term, an explanation will pop up. We perform 3 types of audits, which are the compliance audits, basically dealing with the question if the law was followed. Performance audits, where we evaluate whether there's value for money. In other words, was a specific budget used effectively to achieve the intended purpose? And with the integrity audits, we review the integrity of officials in their function. Now, we also perform other activities, such as advising the Electoral Council on the financial reports of political parties. I'd like to note that we submitted a draft law, which was voted on in Parliament last week, and the votes came back a majority in favor of that amendment. The purpose of that law is to amend certain legal discrepancies, seeing that finances of political parties are not considered public funds, hence falls outside our constitutional task. During 2021, we produced a record number of reports. In total, we produced 12 reports, of which 9 were published. In terms of checks and balances in 2021, our facilitation to Parliament included a diversity of topics, for example, the financial statements of government, the financial statements of APS, review of the SSRP program, the use of checks as payment for government services, responsible gambling, the possibility of introduction of vanity plates as an extra source of income for government. The list goes on. Parliament's oversight of government is supported with this abundance of information. We also believe that financial accountability to the public is very important. So since our annual report of 2020, we include a detailed financial report of our budget and our expenditures for that fiscal year. The financial report was prepared by an independent accountant. We like to encourage other entities using public funds to follow this practice, and in doing so to enhance transparency and public accountability. So what's upcoming? Currently, we are in the final phase to launch our new online interactive environment. Just to be clear, what we're about to show you is a demo. We hope to go live before the end of this month. Maybe ask ICT to click the link. Can you press play? Perfect. Thank you. So this is an interactive platform in where the user can click on different icons. As you can see right now, we only have 2 of them. This is still a demo. We are planning to add a 3rd one as well. And if you click the icon of, for example, the General Audit Chamber, the viewer is directed to the explainer video we just saw. And then after the video, the viewer is given several options, ranging between downloading our annual report, viewing the budget cycle, also taking surveys, the financial cycle, etc., etc. You'll notice that every island has the form of our logo, and the colors match the colors used by the General Audit Chamber. And currently, our institution and the latest audit topics are available. However, the universe, we call it the universe of information, will continue to expand with the publication of new audit reports. And our prime directive is to enhance the information experience by engaging the viewer. So interactivity in the videos, infographics, surveys, downloading reports means that the viewer dynamically processes information. And our communication mission is to explore new ways to engage and inform the public this way. So feel free to check it out when it goes live. Okay. So what did we do in 2022 so far? As my chairman also mentioned, we presented our annual report 2021 within 2 months after the start of the year. I think it was the end of February. This report contains information about what we present today, which is our role and tasks, but also the audits that we carried out in 2021, the advices we provided, our staffing, budget and realization, and our results pertaining to our social media. Last month, we also presented our report on the allocation of road tax. By law, the money collected from road tax is supposed to be placed in a road fund for the use and upgrading of the infrastructure. In practice, the money goes into the government's coffers and is used for general government expenditures. In 2021, government collected 10.3 million guilders in road tax, and 1/3 of that money was spent on the infrastructure. If you'd like to know more about this report, please visit our website or keep an eye out for our interactive environment. You also received our report on the financial statements 2019 of St. Martin in March of this year. Currently, government is, like my chairman also indicated, is catching up on the backlog. And then for today, within the prescribed legal deadline, we also submitted our report on the 2020 financial statement to Parliament. And we're proud to state that since our inception, we've always complied with all the legal deadlines. Government is required to provide the draft national ordinance adopting the financial statements within a month after we submit our report to Parliament. And then afterwards, it's up to you whether or not to grant discharge by approving or not approving that draft ordinance. We'd like to emphasize why these financial statements are so important. Well, it provides, or at least it should provide, answers in the expenditures of government. It should also be a tool for Parliament in executing your budget authority. With a sound financial statement, you can see how the money was spent and therefore determine if the draft budget presented to you is a realistic one. Without sound financial statements, it's practically impossible to draft a realistic budget. In closing, we'd like to thank you for your attention, and we look forward to any comments or questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gums and Mr. De Jong, for your presentation, for your opening remarks and presentation. I would like to now turn the floor over to the members of Parliament that may have questions. I see that MP Westcott Williams would like to have the floor. MP Westcott.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and a good morning to you, to my colleagues, a good morning to the chairperson and members of the General Audit Chamber. Good morning and welcome, and thank you for your presentation made this morning regarding the Chamber's activities. Madam Chair Lady, I just wanted to get confirmation as per what date the proposal for the nomination of the members is in at Parliament. I would like to get confirmation. And secondly, depending on that being in at Parliament, my question would be, what's the hold-up?
MP Westcott Williams. It was received in April. The next step is to have a discussion in Presidium, and then after the Presidium discussion, it will be then sent to a Central Committee meeting for Parliament to discuss.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Any idea when?
Presidium is tomorrow.
And
so
will that be on? Is that on
yes,
for tomorrow?
Yes, it's on the agenda point
okay,
for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the?
No, no, it's clear, and no questions.
No problem. MP, any and other MPs would like to have any questions posed to the presentation? If yes, I see MP Duncan trifling a bit.
Thank you, Madam
No
Chair.
problem.
Good morning
Go
to
ahead.
you. Good morning to the representatives of the General Audit Chamber. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the people of St. Martin tuned in. No, when I heard Madam Chair, Mr. De Jong talk about the fact that the road tax goes into the general coffers, that is one of the biggest issues with government in general, right? The centralization of all monies. Have there been any advices to government on that issue in particular? Because it's an issue, it's a big issue for government, and we see ministries having issues with bringing in funds that go into the general coffers that then disappear, in a sense of the word. So I would like to know if the Audit Chamber has made any advices to government on that particular issue, I guess, of centralization of the of income. Thank you.
I think we get the question, MP. Would I like to turn the floor over to you for more questions, for the answers, I mean, or, because I have a few minor ones, just for clarification, if possible. Just for clarification for the listening audience in general, I'm not sure if we mentioned this in the past, but at least if we can have more clarity when it comes to the solicitation of members of the board. Is it done internally first? If we can break down that procedure. So the General Audit Chamber is the one that seeks, puts out the ad for openings. Then it will come to Parliament, and Parliament will decide. If we could just break down the procedure in general for the listening audience. Lastly, also another question I have, also again for clarification, when it comes to the integrity. The General Audit Chamber liaises, I guess, with the integrity chambers. Give me some examples of what the General Audit Chamber has done when it comes to reporting on an integrity of a minister, ministry in general. Give me examples of how that was done in the past. Also, I heard mentioned during the presentation that there were 9 published. Out of the 12 reports, only 9 were published. Does that mean that some are still pending, or does that mean that 3 are confidential? Explain that also, just for clarity's sake. And lastly, just to dovetail on the question from MP Duncan, You just stated, the General Audit Chamber stated that 1/3 of the road tax was paid on infrastructure. And now you audit the ministries on how they use their finances, and if only 1/3 is used, how are the ministries made liable to use the entire, funds? Who makes them liable? Who makes them accountable? So just for listening audience, so we can understand how you operate and how it works in general. Is there any member of parliament that wish to have the floor? I see I sparked. MP Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to you, here, my colleagues, General Audit Chamber, and those joining us. I just had 2 questions right now, Madam Chair, through you to the General Audit Chamber. Regarding section 3.5.1 of the report, opinion on ministers' integrity declarations, where you mention Article 2 of the National Integrity Ordinance that a minister shall, within 30 days of assuming office, submit to the Prime Minister a written statement regarding their assets and those of their immediate family, and that the Prime Minister then decides which business interests or positions or activities are undesirable. I see also that was not received once the Jacobs Cabinet took office in 2020. But just for my general knowledge, does the Integrity Ordinance contain any such article related to members of Parliament? I know that not much can be done even if it were undesirable, but I think that's important information for the public to have when evaluating the statements and decisions made here on the floor. And regarding the cutting of your budget, I see you mentioned it was done without consultation. If you have since received, because this was 2021, of course, have you since received an explanation for that particular cut? And that's it for me for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Gums. Next, we have MP Richardson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the General Audit Chamber. I have only one question. I want to thank you all for the presentation here today. I have one question, which is in your presentation, you stated that there are 3 part-time consultants. I would like to know what is the budget for those 3 consultants on an annual basis. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Richardson. Mr. Gums, should we adjourn for a few minutes to, okay, sorry, I did not see MP Ponderflet, sorry about that. MP Ponderflet, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to the Chair, my colleagues in Parliament, or guests from the General Auditing Chamber. In going through the report on page, well, it's not pages, 3.3.5, made the audit into settlement of bounce checks. It says that there's a report was made up with regards to these bounce checks. I tried to open it, but when I click on it, it tells me it cannot be opened. So I don't know what's going on with that. How can I get that matter solved? And the issue, so I guess the report will tell us exactly what advice has been given to deal with the bounce checks, I think. But I'd like to definitely read that report to get an idea as to what amounts we are talking about and what can government do in order to ensure that these monies are collected. Another question, Madam Chair, I'm going to see how to phrase this, because it is said that money is budgeted for, let's say, for road repairs, for instance, are not used completely for road repairs, but it goes into the general fund and used for other matters. Did I understand it correctly? Is it wrong to do that? Is it wrong to do that, Madam Chair? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Ponderflet. Any other member of Parliament before I turn the floor over to the General Audit Chamber? I see no need. Should we take an adjournment, a brief adjournment, 10, 15 minutes, or are you able to respond?
Okay, my Secretary General will respond.
Okay.
Since you have all the answers.
Mr. De Jong? We can always take a break, you sure? Okay,
No, I think we're good.
yes.
Thank you so much for the questions. MP Williams, let's start with her. Confirmation on what date the proposal nomination is at Parliament. I guess that was already answered. Then MP Duncan, that the road tax goes into the general coffers. Has there been any advice in the past to government on this topic? Well, first and foremost, I think to do justice to the content of the audit, I think it would be recommended that maybe we can plan a CLU meeting or a separate meeting where we can discuss everything regarding this audit, because there's a lot more, I guess, we can discuss on this topic. We can, from the audit objectives, the questions, methodology, as well as our conclusions and recommendations. In all fairness, we came prepared today to provide a presentation on our annual report 2021. This audit is also prepared by different auditors, and I didn't really consult with them regarding this topic so much. So I would rather answer you completely in a separate CLU meeting. What I can tell you regarding this audit, that I was involved in the interviews, and mainly what I remember was that there was a surprised look on everybody's face as soon as you mentioned that there is an ordinance regulating that there should be a road tax fund. We highlight in our report the necessity of following the law, although we also question the effectiveness of having such a road tax fund in place. But for that, for the content again, it would be better to have a different meeting. And in the meantime, I very much invite you to read the report, especially the section on where we mentioned the effectiveness of having a road fund, or actually more the ineffectiveness. And I guess we could discuss that on a later date more in depth. Then the Chair Lady of Parliament asked for clarity on the solicitation of members of the board. How does that exactly work, that procedure? We actually have an internal policy regulating how members are either approached or in the last instance, the board decided to put an ad out and see if any suitable persons would be available for the function. We got quite some responses, and from that list, I think it was 15 candidates, something like that. The board chose 3 candidates. Recommendation list is made up. That recommendation list is binding. We send it to Parliament. Again, Parliament then chooses 2 out of the 3 names, and then the Parliament sends it then to the Prime Minister and the Governor for further handling. Yeah. Also, you requested clarification on these integrity audits. How does that work in practice? I guess the most famous integrity audit we ever did was in 2000, I believe it was 14. That was the baseline study, integrity, in where the audit chamber went through every single piece of legislation regarding integrity and also mentioned a list of legislation that was still missing. That was one of them. Another one we did was the administrative appointments audit, in where we audited the procedure of appointments in supervisory boards of mainly government entities. Where a minister had a role in this procedure, we checked if everything was in accordance with the law. When it comes to integrity audits, they're usually not on individuals, but on the actions of the individual. And they also not usually standalone audits. We would take an integrity question or issue in any audit that we do. So it's not necessarily a standalone audit that we can, but I don't think we necessarily did that in the past. Not on the function of a person. You also mentioned that we published 9 reports, and if 3 other ones were pending. Actually, those 3 are confidential. One of them, for example, is the confidential audit we did on the secret expenditures of ADSM. That's one of them. And by law, those are not public. Your last question regarded the road tax. and that 1/3 was paid on infrastructures and how our ministries or ministers made liable. Well, I guess based on our reports and our recommendations, you can hold a minister accountable for the financial management. So I guess who holds the minister in that sense liable? I guess that would be Parliament. Yeah, yeah. MP Gums asked about the integrity declarations for ministers when they come into office. Does the integrity ordinance also regulate this for MPs as well? Well, short answer, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And then also regarding the cuts on the budget, that was done without consultation. Have we received explanations on those cuts? I would just like to clarify that we made those cuts voluntarily because we believe that with the financial situation of the country and also in solidarity with the public and private sector, we felt that we have an exemplary role, and that's why we decided to do an analysis of our budget and see where we could cut, which also resulted in not onboarding extra personnel. That was one of the major cuts that we made. But it does have effect on your audits. What we realized during 2021 as well is that when you want to go into in-depth in a certain area, you would need extra expertise, and maybe we said, okay, for this audit, we chose not to do it because of the budget cuts and constraints involved. So for the next coming years, hopefully we will still be able to do that, because we got some cool plans in the future for audits where we would need specific expertise. MP Richardson asked that there are 3 part-time consultants, and what is the budget on an annual base? I'd just like to mention that we made a conscious choice not to hire additional staff because we felt that hiring consultants is way more effective, and that translated in a record of reports during the year 2021. I can give you the exact breakdown. It's also mentioned, I think it's also mentioned in our financial report as well. Let me just give me a second to look that up. I think I know that out of my head. I think our budget for rechts- en deskundig advies, that's what it's called. It is 250, right? The budget in 2021 was 425,000 guilders. Keep in mind that the reduction of personnel costs was about 500 and something thousand guilders. So again, seeing that we produced 12 reports in 1 year's time, basically one every month, I think it's fair to say that the effectiveness is incredible, is outstanding. And we have a very dedicated team, even though we call them part-time. Whenever we need to call on them, they're always available. One as we speak. MP Pantoflet asked about report 3.3.5, the mini audit into the settlement of bounced checks. I think that was a very good question as well. Because we are right now changing our website. And I think this is one of the mistakes that we have to look at, that when you click it, it doesn't open. We will make sure that that is resolved right after this meeting. In the meantime, I will send the report to the SG, and then hopefully he can forward it to you as well. Then the road repairs, they go into general funds. Is it wrong to do that? You see, here we have an issue between legal compliance and efficiency. Legal compliance, my answer is yes. All the monies from the road tax have to go into a road fund. That is the law. And if you would like to change that law, then it's up to Parliament to change it. If it's effective to put everything in a road tax fund, given the fact that you would need a director, a financial manager, people in that fund, is that really the most effective way to tackle this? We came up with certain recommendations where we feel this could be done way more effective. But I guess, if you would like to change that law, it's your prerogative to do so. So yeah, is it wrong to do that? Legally, yes. If it's the most effective way to do it, no. I don't believe that. I think that those were all the questions, Honorable MP.
Thank you, Mr. De Jong, for your answers. I see that MP Pontiflet would like to have the floor for clarification. MP Pontiflet?
Yes, I think for myself, yes, of course. Thank you very much for the answer. So I want to make sure I understand it correctly, because sometimes I think I do, then I realize I don't. So in other words, it is not legal for government to take monies that have been budgeted for the road fund to put in a general fund. Did I understand it correctly?
Mr. De Jong?
Again, I would like to invite, or we would like to be invited to come into Parliament in a CLU meeting so we can discuss this in a more detailed way.
Okay.
But right now, yes, there is a law that states that all the money from the road tax should go into a road fund.
And your advice is we can change that law in order to have it go where it is needed at the time.
Well, my advice is, first of all, I think it would be good to read the report and then just check out our recommendations that we say. I think we're saying something like, come up with a multi-annual plan with different phases and allocate certain budget to make sure that those plans are executed. Yeah.
Okay, then it means when you get back online, I can really do the research myself, I believe, and then probably call a meeting and have that done behind closed doors. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pontiflet and Mr. De Jong. Any other member of Parliament wish to have the floor for clarifications? Then if there are no comments, and I don't know if Mr. Gums or Mr. De Jong would like to have the word before we close. Any closing remarks before we close the meeting? Mr. Gums?
Yeah. Now, just on behalf of the board and members of the General Audit Chamber, once again, we'd just like to thank the Parliament for this invitation. And we do hope, as Mr. De Jong mentioned, that if you have any questions on any of our reports, that we would be happy to come and have a discussion with you on those. Thank you.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Gums, Mr. De Jong, Mrs. Dal Ofringa, and Ms. Peterson for your presence here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting, and I'd like to also thank you for your participation. This meeting is closed. Meeting closed.